The battlefield silence. The battlefield was silent, but the silence was not peaceful. Smoke covered the ground, burned metal filled the air, and broken ships lay across the valley like dead giants. Once, only hours ago, this place had been full of voices, soldiers shouting, weapons firing, and the ground shaking with war. Now everything was quiet, except for the sound of fire eating the ruins and the weak breath of those who still clung to life. At the very center of the battlefield lay the alien queen. Her golden armor was cracked, her crown broken. She tried to move, but her body refused to listen. Pain rushed through her chest and her once proud wings were torn and bloody. She had never imagined that the leader of a great empire could fall like this, left lying on the cold ground, helpless. Her guards were gone, her warriors dead. Only the dead eyes of her people stared back at her from the battlefield. For the first time in her life, the queen felt fear, not for the war, not for death, but for being alone. She could not call for help. She could not rise to defend herself. She was trapped inside her own body. Then she heard footsteps. Her heart froze. Who dared walk in this silence? The queen's vision blurred, but she could see a shadow moving through the smoke. The figure was tall, broad-shouldered, and walked with the steady pace of someone who still had strength left. When the smoke shifted, she saw the truth. It was a human soldier. Her blood ran cold. The queen's people had always told her humans were dangerous, too stubborn to die, too brave to fear. They were called deathworlders by many species, beings who grew strong on a world so harsh that even their weakest could survive what others could not. She had laughed at those stories before, but now, lying helpless, she did not laugh. The human soldier walked slowly, scanning the field with sharp eyes. His armor was battered, his weapon scratched, and his face dirty with blood and smoke. Yet, he stood tall, as if nothing could break him. His gaze fell on her, and he stopped. The queen tried to speak, to command him to stay away, but her voice was only a weak whisper. Her pride wanted to shout, "Do not touch me, human!" But her body betrayed her. Only silence came out. The soldier's eyes narrowed as he walked closer. Every step echoed in her ears like thunder. She wanted to crawl back, but her legs refused to move. Her heart pounded. Was this the end? Was this human here to finish what the enemy had started? The soldier knelt beside her. For a long moment, neither spoke. The wind carried ash between them, and the battlefield seemed to hold its breath. He studied her broken form. He could see the once glorious queen, a ruler feared by many, now lying like a fallen statue. Something flickered in his eyes, not hatred, not victory, but something else. The queen expected a blade. Instead, he reached out his hand. Her chest tightened. Why? Why would a human offer a hand instead of death? She could not understand. The soldier placed 2 fingers on her neck, checking her pulse. His touch was steady, calm, like he had done this many times before. His expression changed slightly when he felt the faint beat of her heart. She was still alive. The queen's breath trembled. She could not speak, but her eyes asked the question her lips could not. Why are you helping me? The human did not answer. He did not need to. His actions spoke louder. Slowly, carefully, he slid one arm under her back and another beneath her legs. With surprising strength, he lifted her broken body into his arms. The queen gasped, shocked beyond words. No one, not even her closest guards, had ever dared to hold her this way. She was the queen, untouchable, sacred. Yet this human carried her like she was nothing more than a wounded soldier who needed saving. The silence of the battlefield deepened as he stood with her in his arms. All around them lay death. But in that single moment, the world felt alive. Again. The queen could not look away from his face. It was not cruel, not mocking, it was determined. Still, doubt burned inside her. What did he plan to do with her? Deliver her to his leaders? Use her as a trophy? Or was there something else? Something she could not yet see? As he began to walk, the queen felt every step shake her world. She had been taught all her life that humans were nothing but savages, that they could never be trusted. But now, carried in the arms of one, she realized something far more terrifying. This human did not fear her. And for the first time, the queen wondered if fear had always been the wrong way to understand them. The battlefield was silent, but inside her heart, a storm had begun. The weight of a queen. The human soldier carried the alien queen through the smoking ruins. His boots sank into the mud, crushed metal cracked beneath his steps, and the weight in his arms was heavier than anything he had carried before. But it was not only her body's weight, it was the weight of what she represented. This was not just another wounded fighter. This was the queen of an empire, a ruler of millions, feared across the stars. And yet now, her head rested against his chest, her golden armor broken, her breath weak, her once proud eyes half closed in exhaustion. Every instinct told him to leave her behind. She was the enemy. If his commanders saw him carrying her, they would call him a traitor. If her people saw it, they would call her weak. Still, he did not stop. Something inside him refused to let her die there like the others. The queen could feel his heartbeat against her ear. It was strong, steady, like a drum that refused to stop. She hated herself for listening to it. She had sworn to never let a human close, to never depend on them. But her body betrayed her. Every breath she took came because he carried her away from the battlefield. Her pride screamed at her to resist. "Put me down," she wanted to say. "I am not yours to hold." But when she tried to move, pain cut through her like fire. Her voice failed her again. She was forced to remain still in his arms, powerless. The soldier walked past burning ships and shattered banners. Once glorious flags of alien clans lay in the dirt, soaked in blood. Every step reminded him of what he had lost. His squad, his comrades, his brothers in arms. The battlefield had taken them all, and now he was carrying not a friend, not a comrade, but a queen from the enemy's side. His jaw tightened. He could almost hear the voices of his fallen brothers. Why her? Why save her? But the answer was simple. Because she was alive, and he could not abandon life when he still had the strength to protect it. Behind them, shadows moved. The soldier knew they were not safe. The enemy would come back to finish the job. He shifted his grip on the queen and pressed her closer to his chest. She was heavy, but he refused to let her slip. The queen's eyes fluttered open for a moment. Through the smoke, she saw his face. It was not kind, but it was not cruel either. It was focused, unshaken, like stone carved by war. His scars told her he had seen many battles, yet his arms did not tremble under her weight. "You should not," she whispered weakly, her lips barely moving. "Carry me." Her voice was so faint that even she wondered if he heard it. But the soldier did not stop, did not answer. He kept walking as if her words meant nothing, as if his decision was already made. For the first time, the queen felt something unfamiliar, helplessness mixed with a strange safety. She hated the thought, but she could not deny it. In the arms of a human, the galaxy's most dangerous predator, she felt safer than she had on her throne. The ground shook behind them. The soldier turned his head quickly. He saw drones rising from the wreckage, their red eyes scanning the ruins. The enemy had returned. He cursed under his breath and quickened his pace. The queen felt his grip tighten around her, his muscles straining as he moved faster. Her heart raced, not from pain but from the strange realization. This man was willing to fight death itself while carrying her. The first drone spotted them. A red beam cut through the smoke, missing his head by inches. The soldier dropped to one knee, twisting his body to shield the queen. His armor took the hit, sparks flying, but he did not let go of her. The queen stared in disbelief. "He protects me? Even now?" He rolled behind a half-broken wall, breathing, heavily but still holding her close. He raised his weapon with one hand and fired at the drone. The shot was precise. The drone exploded into fire and metal. raining sparks over them. The queen's lips parted, but no words came. She had never seen such madness, such loyalty to someone who should be his enemy. The soldier pressed his back to the wall, scanning for more drones. His arm shook slightly from holding both her and the weapon, but he forced his body to obey. With every movement, she felt his strength, his determination. He did not see her as a queen. He did not see her as untouchable. He saw her as someone who needed saving, and against her will she began to wonder, why? They moved again, slipping through the ruins. The soldier's breath grew heavier, but he never slowed. The queen closed her eyes, her pride warring with her survival. She had led armies, destroyed fleets, crushed rebels. Yet in this moment her life belonged to one human who refused to put her down. "Why do you carry me?" she thought again, but no answer came. The weight of a queen was more than her broken body. It was her crown, her pride, her history. And still, the soldier bore it without question. The battlefield behind them roared again as drones searched the ruins. The human soldier tightened his grip, adjusted his steps, and whispered under his breath, just loud enough for the queen to hear, "You're not dying here." Her heart stopped for a beat. She had never heard words like that from a human before. And in the silence that followed, the queen realized something terrifying. The weight she thought would crush him only made him stronger. The hunt begins. The night sky above the battlefield glowed red with fire. Broken war machines burned like dying suns, and the air carried the bitter smell of smoke and blood. The human soldier moved quickly, the alien queen still in his arms, her weight heavy but not enough to slow him down. His eyes scanned every shadow. He knew the silence would not last, and he was right. A sharp sound cut through the air, a whirring of metal wings. The soldier froze, pressing his back against a ruined wall. The queen's weak eyes opened, and she saw what he had already sensed. Drones. The enemy had returned, their machines sweeping the battlefield, searching for survivors. The soldier's grip on his weapon tightened, but he did not set her down. That thought never crossed his mind. To him, putting her on the ground would mean losing her. He adjusted his stance, cradling her closer with one arm while raising his gun with the other. The first drone flew past, its red eye glowing in the dark like a hunter's gaze. The soldier's finger tightened on the trigger, but he waited, steady as stone. Only when the machine turned its eye away did he move, slipping from shadow to shadow, carrying the queen like a secret too precious to lose. The queen's breath came shallow. Her pride fought against the truth, but she could not escape the reality. Her life now rested in the arms of a human. Each time the drone passed close, she expected him to drop her, to save himself. But he never did. His heartbeat never wavered. His steps never broke. Then it happened. A drone spotted them. Its red eye locked on, and with a sharp cry it fired. A beam of light shot toward them. The soldier spun, pressing the queen tight against his chest as he threw himself behind a broken vehicle. The blast tore the ground where they had stood, showering dirt and sparks. The queen's eyes widened. He had shielded her again. She could feel the heat of the blast still clinging to his armor, yet his arms did not loosen. The soldier exhaled sharply and leaned out, firing a quick burst. His shot struck true. The drone exploded in a shower of metal, but the explosion was too loud. Now the rest of them knew. The valley came alive with the sound of machines. Drones rose from the wreckage, their red eyes glowing like hundreds of stars. Their wings buzzed in the air, their weapons charging. The soldier's jaw tightened. The hunt had begun. He ran. His boots pounded against the ground as he carried the queen, weaving through ruins and fire. Beams of light struck all around them, slicing through walls, blasting apart the dirt. Sparks rained from the sky. The queen stared up at him, her pride collapsing in silence. "Why? Why do you risk this for me?" But her lips could not form the words. The soldier ducked into the shell of a broken ship. Metal groaned under his steps as he found cover behind a shattered bulkhead. He laid the queen carefully against the cold wall for just a moment. Her eyes locked on his face as he raised his weapon with both hands. "You stay alive," he muttered, though he wasn't sure she could hear. Then he fired. The ship shook with the sound of his gun. Drones shattered one after another, crashing into the dirt, their burning pieces lighting the ruins like stars falling from the sky. But for everyone he destroyed, 3 more came. The Queen forced her hand to move, reaching for his arm. Her fingers trembled as they touched his wrist. He looked back at her, surprised. "Leave me," she whispered, her voice breaking. "You cannot fight them while carrying me." Her words cut deep, but the soldier shook his head. "Not happening." His tone was firm, unshaken. He pulled her back into his arms and kept moving. She had ruled empires with her voice, but against his simple refusal, she had no strength. The hunt grew louder, the sky filled with buzzing wings, beams of light cutting the night apart. The soldier's armor burned with scratches, his breath heavy, but he never slowed. Every step was a promise, every shot a shield. The Queen's chest rose and fell against him. Her pride was broken, but her eyes refused to close. She could not stop watching him. This human who fought like the world itself would collapse if he failed. He dove behind another wall, firing again, dropping drones one by one. His arms trembled from holding her, but his resolve never cracked. And then in the chaos something changed. The Queen realized she was no longer afraid of the drones. She was afraid of something else, something far greater. She was afraid of what it meant to trust a human. For centuries, her people had spoken of humans with hatred and fear. They were said to be reckless, violent, impossible to control. But as the soldier carried her through fire and death, shielding her with his body, risking everything for her life, she saw another truth. Humans were dangerous not because they killed, but because they refused to surrender. And now she was the one they refused to surrender. The hunt continued, the valley echoing with fire and metal. But inside the Queen's heart, a different battle began. For the first time, she wondered if everything she had believed about humans had been wrong. The drones screamed overhead, their red eyes searching for prey. But the soldier did not falter. He carried her through the storm, and with each step, each breath, each shot, he carved a path of defiance through the night. The hunt had begun, but the question was no longer whether they would survive. The question was, what would happen if they did? The hidden cave. The soldier's breath burned in his chest as he ran. His arms ached, but he did not loosen his hold on the Queen. The drones behind them screamed like angry predators, their red eyes lighting the night. Every step the soldier took was a battle with exhaustion, but he pushed forward, refusing to stop. Ahead, through the smoke, he saw it. An opening in the rock wall, half hidden by broken trees and shadows. A cave. Shelter. Not safety, but a chance. To breathe. He pushed himself harder, his boots slipping on the uneven ground. A beam of energy tore past his shoulder, scorching the stone. The Queen felt the blast's heat brush against her cheek, but the soldier did not falter. He ducked low, slid across the dirt, and carried her into the cave's darkness. The silence inside was heavy, broken only by his harsh breathing and the distant hum of the drones outside. The soldier lowered the Queen gently against the cold, stone wall. For the first time since he had lifted her, he released her from his arms. Her chest rose and fell weakly, her body trembling. She opened her eyes and looked at him. In the dim light, his face was shadowed, but his eyes glowed with determination. He moved quickly, dragging broken rocks to the entrance, covering their tracks. His every motion was sharp, efficient. He had done this before. Found cover, hidden from enemies, waited in silence. The Queen watched him silently. Her pride told her not to thank him. Her pride told her to remind him she was still his enemy. But the truth was simple. Without him, she would already be dead. The soldier crouched beside her. He removed a small pack from his belt, pulling out a ration bar and a flask of water. His hands, rough with scars, broke the bar and held it near her lips. "Eat," he said. His voice was low, steady, carrying no emotion. The Queen's eyes narrowed. You feed me? Her voice was faint but sharp like a broken blade. You need strength, he replied simply. Doesn't matter who you are. You're alive. That's enough. She stared at him. No soldier, no rival, no subject had ever spoken to her like that. To everyone, she was a queen, a ruler. To him, she was just someone who needed saving. Against her will, her lips parted. He pressed the ration against her mouth and she chewed slowly, every bite bitter but life-giving. Then came the water. He tilted the flask carefully, letting the cool liquid touch her lips. She drank, drops running down her chin, and for the first time since the battle began, she felt a little life return to her body. The silence stretched between them. The cave was dark, but not empty. The queen felt the weight of his presence beside her, and she could not look away from him. Why? She whispered suddenly. The word slipped from her before she could stop it. The soldier paused. Why what? Why carry me? Why fight for me? Her voice cracked. I am your enemy. My armies killed your people. The soldier's eyes did not waver. He looked at her for a long moment, then spoke. I don't care about crowns. I don't care about thrones. Out there on the field, you weren't a queen. You were just someone left to die. I couldn't walk away. The queen's chest tightened. She wanted to call him a liar, to accuse him of playing some human trick. But the steadiness in his voice, the fire in his eyes, it was too real. She turned her face away, her pride burning. You are a fool, she whispered. Maybe, he said, but you're alive because of it. His words hung in the darkness like a blade, sharp and undeniable. Outside, the drones still searched, their hum echoing faintly. The soldier checked his weapon, then leaned against the wall near the entrance. He sat with his back straight, his gun across his knees, watching the shadows for movement. The queen studied him in silence. His armor was cracked, his hands bleeding, his body exhausted, but he did not rest. He stayed awake, a silent guardian in the cave's darkness. Her heart beat unevenly. She had ruled countless soldiers, commanded endless warriors, but none had fought like him. None had risked so much for so little. For the first time in her life, she felt a strange, dangerous thought. Perhaps humans are not monsters. Perhaps they are something more. She closed her eyes, not from weakness but from confusion. The cave was cold, but she felt a warmth where his arms had held her, a warmth she could not name, a warmth that scared her more than the battlefield outside. The soldier sat in silence, his gaze sharp, his body still. Yet deep inside he felt the same storm. He had saved lives before, but never like this. Never someone who had been his enemy. And as he listened to her shallow breathing beside him, he realized something that made his hands tighten on the weapon. The war outside was not the only battle. The real battle had already begun, inside the cave, inside their hearts, in the silence between them. Secrets in the dark, the cave was quiet, too quiet. Outside, the enemy drones had moved farther into the valley, their hum growing faint. Inside, the only sound was the slow drip of water from the ceiling and the weak breaths of the alien queen. The soldier sat near the entrance, weapon across his knees, his body tense like a coiled spring. He had not slept. He had not closed his eyes. Even in the silence, danger lingered, and he refused to let his guard fall. The queen watched him from where she lay. Her strength was slowly returning, but her pride was torn apart. She had never been so helpless before, never forced to depend on another being, least of all a human. Her eyes studied him. His armor was battered, his shoulders heavy, yet his posture was unbroken. He looked like stone, immovable, unshaken. She wondered what kind of life forged a man like this. Finally, she broke the silence. Her voice was low, rough from thirst. You do not sleep, she whispered. The soldier glanced at her but said nothing. You fight like someone who has nothing to lose, she added, her tone sharp, though curiosity hid beneath her words. His jaw tightened. For a moment, it seemed he would ignore her. Then slowly, he spoke. I lost everything a long time ago. The words hung in the air, heavier than stone. The queen tilted her head, watching his eyes. There was no weakness in them, only scars deeper than wounds. What do you mean? She asked. The soldier's hand brushed across his weapon as if steadying himself. His voice came quiet, steady, like someone recalling pain he had locked away. My squad, my brothers, every one of them gone. We were sent on missions no one else wanted, death traps, suicide runs, and still we fought. Until one day, I was the only one left. The queen's chest rose slowly. She had heard of humans being reckless, of them throwing themselves into hopeless battles. But hearing it in his voice was different. His words were not stories. They were truths carved in blood. And your leaders? She asked carefully. Do they value such sacrifice? His lips curved into something bitter. Leaders value victory. Soldiers are tools. When one breaks, they send another. That's war. The queen's eyes narrowed. For a moment, she felt an odd connection because she knew that truth. She too had sent soldiers to die, had seen lives as numbers on a battlefield. But no one had ever said it aloud in her presence. No one dared. You saved me, she whispered slowly. Even though your leaders would call me your enemy. Why? The soldier turned his gaze to her, his eyes sharp but not cruel. Because you were alive. That's enough. Enemy, ally. Doesn't matter when someone's breathing their last. If I can stop death, I will. The queen's breath caught. She had ruled through power, through fear, through command. Never had she known someone who would risk everything without expecting anything in return. It was foolish. It was dangerous. And yet, it was human. She turned her face away, but the warmth in her chest betrayed her. Silence fell again. But this time it was not empty. It was filled with unspoken thoughts, with questions neither dared to voice. After a while, the soldier leaned his head back against the wall, his voice breaking the quiet once more. You're not what I expected, he admitted, her eyes narrowed. And what did you expect? He shrugged slightly. A monster. A tyrant. That's what they tell us about your kind. But you're just a person. Bleeding, hurting, trying not to die. Same as me. The queen's lips pressed together. She wanted to snap at him, to remind him she was not just a person, that she was a ruler chosen by blood and destiny. But the words would not leave her mouth. Because at this moment she was exactly what he said. Just someone trying not to die. Her eyes softened, though only for a moment. And you, human, you are not what I expected either. He raised a brow. What did you expect? A savage, she said simply. A beast who kills for pleasure. That is what I was taught. He gave a small, humorless laugh. Maybe some of us are, but most of us, we just try to survive. For the first time, their eyes met and did not turn away. The queen saw no lies in his gaze, only raw honesty. And the soldier saw no crown in hers, only weariness and hidden strength. The cave seemed to grow warmer, though the night outside was cold. The queen's body trembled slightly, not from pain, but from the unfamiliar storm inside her chest. She had lived her life surrounded by servants, warriors, and sycophants who spoke only what she wanted to hear. But this human, he spoke the truth, sharp and unshaken, even when it hurt. And against her will, she respected it. The soldier finally turned his gaze back to the cave entrance, his body once more like stone, but the queen lay in silence, her eyes open, her heart unsteady. For the first time she wondered if this war, this endless battle between her people and his, was built on lies. And as the night stretched on, secrets shared in the dark began to change something inside her. Not trust, not yet, but something far more dangerous. Hope. The escape. The cave gave them silence, but silence never lasted long on a battlefield. The soldier knew it. His instincts screamed it. And when the queen, Opened her eyes the next morning, she felt it too. Danger was close. Outside, the faint hum of drones returned. Not one this time, not a few, but many. The sound filled the valley like a swarm of hornets. They had found the trail. They were coming. The soldier rose to his feet, his weapon already in his hands. His back was stiff from sitting all night without rest, but his eyes burned with focus. "They've found us," he muttered. The queen tried to push herself up, but pain tore through her body. She clenched her teeth, frustration burning inside her. Once she had commanded armies with her voice. Now she couldn't even stand without falling. "You must leave me," she said sharply. "You cannot fight them all while carrying me. Go, save yourself." The soldier's head turned slowly, his eyes locking onto hers. His voice came low, steady, unshaken. "Not happening. I told you before. You're not dying here." Before she could argue, the cave shook with a blast. The entrance lit up with red light, dust, and rocks falling from the ceiling. The drones were outside, burning their way in. The soldier grabbed her, lifting her into his arms again. She gasped as her broken body was carried like nothing more than a burden, but he moved fast, pressing deeper into the cave. Another blast struck. The walls cracked. The ground trembled beneath their feet. The queen clutched at his chest, her pride forgotten for a moment, fear cutting through her. "The cave will collapse." "I know," he said, his voice hard. "That's why we're not staying." He found a narrow passage at the back, half hidden by rocks. With one arm he pushed debris aside. With the other, he held her close. The tunnel was dark, sharp stone cutting at his armor, but he pressed forward. Behind them, the entrance collapsed with a thunderous crash. Dust and fire filled the cave, chasing them through the passage. The soldier shielded her with his body, coughing but never stopping. Finally, light appeared ahead. A second exit, smaller, hidden by vines. He burst through, carrying her into the open air. The forest stretched before them, twisted trees and fog covering the ground. But there was no time to rest. The hum of the drones grew louder. They had tracked them here too. The soldier ran into the forest, his boots pounding against the earth. Branches whipped his face, roots caught his steps, but he never let go. The queen's breath was shallow against his chest. She wanted to scream at him to stop, to put her down, but her voice refused to leave her throat. The first drone appeared above the trees. A red beam cut down, striking the earth beside them. The ground exploded, dirt and flame rising. The soldier rolled, shielding her from the blast, then fired a shot upward. The drone shattered, crashing through the branches, but more came. Dozens. Their red eyes lit the fog like an army of burning stars. The queen's heart raced. She had seen battles before, but never like this. One man carrying her, standing against machines designed to kill armies. The soldier darted through the forest, weaving between trees, firing in bursts. His movements were sharp, precise, as if every step had been trained 1,000 times. He dropped drone after drone, but the swarm never thinned. "You can't win," the queen cried finally, her voice breaking. "I don't need to win," he shouted back, breathless. "I just need to keep you alive." The words cut through her more sharply than any weapon. Why did he care so much? Why would a human soldier risk everything for her? She had no answer. They broke through the trees into a ravine. Steep cliffs rose on either side, a rushing river below. The soldiers skidded to a stop, scanning the edge. Drones closed in behind them, their weapons glowing. "There's no way forward," the queen gasped. The soldiers' eyes locked on the river below. The current was strong, violent, but it was their only chance. "Hold on," he said. Before she could protest, he leapt. The world spun. The queen screamed as the wind tore past them. They hit the river with a crash, icy water swallowing them whole. The current dragged them under, twisting and pulling, but the soldier's grip never broke. He held her tight, fighting the river with every ounce of strength. The water roared in their ears, smashing them against rocks, dragging them through whirlpools. The queen clung to him, her pride gone, her life hanging on his arms. At last the current flung them onto the bank. The soldier crawled from the water, gasping for air, still carrying her in his arms. His body shook from exhaustion, but he did not let her go. The queen stared at him, drenched, broken, yet unyielding. For the first time, her voice came soft, almost fragile. "You could have let me die, and you would be free." The soldier met her gaze, his eyes burning. "I'm not built that way." She could not speak. Her empire had been built on power, fear, and loyalty through force. But this man, this human, carried her, not because of orders, not because of duty, but because it was who he was. As he lifted her once more and stepped into the forest beyond, the queen realized something that made her heart tremble. The escape was not just from the drones. It was from everything she thought she knew about humans, and there was no turning back. A queen's promise. The forest was quiet again, but it was not the peaceful kind of quiet. It was the heavy silence that comes after chaos, the silence that hides danger waiting in the shadows. The human soldier walked slowly now, his body weak from the river and the fight, but he still carried the alien queen in his arms. Each step hurt. His muscles screamed, his lungs burned, and every scar on his body felt alive. Yet his grip on her never loosened. The queen looked up at him, her wet hair falling over her face, her golden armor cracked beyond repair. She had been raised to be untouchable, worshipped, feared. Yet here she was, helpless, broken, and carried like she was nothing more than a woman who needed saving. And the strangest part was, she did not hate it anymore. They reached a ridge overlooking the valley. From there, the queen could see the battlefield in the distance, still burning, still filled with smoke and death. Her empire's banners were gone, torn apart. Her people, her army, her throne. All of it felt far away. The soldier set her gently against a rock and knelt beside her, catching his breath. He was silent, but the queen could see the toll written on his body. His hands shook, his chest heaved, his armor was torn. "You should rest," she whispered, her voice soft for the first time. He gave a tired smile, shaking his head. "No time for that. We keep moving. They'll come again." Her chest tightened. This man had no reason to keep fighting for her. No order bound him, no reward awaited him, and still he refused to stop. "Why?" she asked again, her voice trembling. "Why do you protect me like this?" He looked at her, his eyes steady even in exhaustion. "Because life matters. Because if I let you die, then what's the point of surviving myself?" Her heart raced at his words. She had lived her whole life believing strength was the only truth, that power was the only way to rule. But this man, this human, showed her a strength she had never known. Strength that came from protecting, not destroying. The queen closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them again. Something inside her shifted. Something she could no longer ignore. "You are a fool," she whispered, but her lips curved into the smallest smile. "Maybe," he said, leaning back against the rock. "But I'd rather be a fool who saves someone than a coward who walks away." The silence that followed was not heavy this time. It was warm. The queen studied his face in the fading light. The scars, the dirt, the tired eyes. Yet beneath it all, there was something unbreakable. And in that moment, she made a choice. "You have carried me when I could not move," she said slowly, her voice gaining strength. "You have fought when I could not lift a blade. You saved me, even when I was your enemy." Her words hung in the air, sharp and clear. The soldier turned his head toward her, listening. "I am a queen," she continued, her voice soft but powerful. "When I return to my people, they will expect me to command, to rule, to hate. But after what you have done..." She paused, her chest rising with the weight of her next words. "I cannot hate you. I will not." The soldier frowned, slightly confused. "What are you saying?" "I owe you my life," she said simply, "and a queen does not forget a debt. One day, human, I will repay you, with more than words." Her eyes shone in the dim light, not with pride, but with something deeper. Respect. The soldier looked at her for a long moment. He had not expected this. He had not saved her for reward or debt. But hearing her say it, he realized what it meant. This was not just a woman speaking. It was a ruler, a voice that carried across stars. And she had promised him. Before he could reply, the distant hum of drones echoed faintly again. The soldier stood, his weapon ready, his body screaming in protest. The queen reached for his arm, her hand trembling but firm. "You cannot fight forever," she said. "I don't need forever," he replied, tightening his grip on the gun. "Just long enough to keep you alive." Her eyes softened. For the first time, she saw not just a soldier, not just a human, but a force that even war could not crush. As he lifted her into his arms once more, the queen leaned closer, her lips near his ear. Her voice was steady now, clear as a vow. "When this war ends," she whispered, "when my people look to me for command, I will remember this night. I will remember you. And I will change what must be changed." The soldier said nothing. But inside, he felt something he had not felt in years. Not anger, not loss, something far more dangerous. Hope. The forest ahead was dark, the drones closing in, the war still raging. But as the human soldier carried the alien queen into the night, the promise she made bound them together in a way no weapon or crown ever could. A queen's promise, a human's defiance, and perhaps, in that fragile bond, the galaxy itself would change.